Hey everyone, Livy here, back with another video, and today, as you might be able to tell by these cards, is finally going to be the end of the court card series with a video on how to take in all the information I've applied so far when talking about the different court cards and use it to actually interpret them. It's certainly, right, one thing to try waxing poetics about what each court card can signify. But it's another thing entirely, right, to put that information into actual practice. Especially because what people most get stumped about with the courts, from what I've personally seen, is how to make sense of them when they pop up in a reading. So how this is going to work is I will present a few different examples of readings and how I would analyze them personally based on where they are in the spread. Before that, I will also discuss, what it means when one does appear in a reading, like mainly the most common ways I see them speaking in a reading, as it were. And I'll also, of course, have to talk a little bit on significators, because it goes hand in hand with the court cards. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay. Now that we know who these court cards are, right? It's a lot easier to talk about what they can mean in a reading, because there are actually a few different ways that you can view them, okay? The first, and usually the most obvious, is that court cards represent actual people. Notice, however, that I said can, right? They don't, how do I explain this? They don't always represent you or someone else in a significator-like way, but they most certainly can if it's a reading about yourself or other people. This is why, right, it kind of becomes important to, know and understand significators and or the personalities of other people kind of around you too, as well as the personalities of each of these cards, right? Like, that's why I spend so long talking about, like, what do the queens mean, or what do the knights mean, right? This is also why I presented them in the way of character study, right? Because it's easier to understand personalities if it's linked to pre-existing knowledge. But anyways, this is kind of getting a little nebulous. Let's go back into a little bit on significators, okay? For those just starting out who may not know what they are, a significator card is a court card usually that you would use to represent you or someone else in a reading, right? How do I explain this? Okay. Traditionally, people picked a significator based on arbitrary factors like age or appearance, and actually used to just pull them out, right? They pulled them out of their whole deck to start a reading to basically be the center card. Like in this case, if I move these all aside, someone would literally pretend to go through their deck. They would pull it out and just leave the significator in the middle and then put the rest of their cards around it, okay? I must confess, I don't care for that method of reading for a few different reasons. The first is, if everyone in the world had to pick a significator based on how we looked, right? Our perceived gender or even our age, then one, we'd see less variance in people's significators across the world. Like if you had to do, a whole survey of everyone, you would see less variance of significators. And two, it'd be completely ignoring the actual personalities of the cards themselves, and therefore would most likely be an inaccurate representation of who we are as people. For example, give me 1 second so I can pull the example. Sorry, back. Okay, for example, right? Okay, this is Mary Kay Greer's Once again, because I always talk about this book, this is Archetypal Tarot, okay? And this is our book. And in the back, just as like a little footnote in this book, she does show the traditional chart used to pick out significators. Like, this is how people used to do this, okay? As you can see, this chart is, if you can see, this chart is limiting because it doesn't take into account non-binary people like me, and it also wants to pigeonhole people, right, based on their age. If I had to follow these charts, someone would incorrectly assume that my significator was either the Queen of Cups, right? Because I have brown eyes and seem to be mature or female presenting, or, right, or they would assume that I am the Queen of Pentacles because, right, I have dark hair. Okay, that's what you would assume if you had to follow this chart, these charts, right? Gonna leave that for a second just so you guys can see a little closer for yourself, like how silly this is, okay? Now, do I think that either of these cards in question make sense based on my actual personality and now what we've gone over with the actual personalities of these cards? Does it make sense? No. Especially because if I took those features into account, literally every single woman in my family, like literally every single woman in my family would end up being a Queen of Pentacles or a Queen of Cups, right? Every single one. And every single man in my family, basically, would be the King of Pentacles, okay? If we were following this ridiculous system that people used to use, this would obviously not be accurate to actual people's personalities, right? So basically what I'm saying here is this shit would not make sense. Please throw it out. Please never follow this when you're thinking about significators, okay? It's not accurate. It's not accurate at all. Also, though, to point out, if this is not accurate, right, if you can't base it off the way that you look and instead have to go, well, actually on your personality, right, when you do figure out, based on personality, which few significators or which few cards are your significators, you don't need to pull them out to start a reading, okay? How do I explain this? Unless a very specific spread asks you to do it, right? I think that pulling out a significator can limit your reading, in my opinion. And it doesn't account for the fact that others might also represent the card. Like, yes, we don't want to base it on people's appearances, but other people could have a very similar personality to you and be this Queen of Cups. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't make sense to pull it out if that person might be a factor in your reading, you know. And yes, I did say a few significator cards, okay? Because I do actually believe in the idea that each person has a significator card tailored to each of the four suits. I know. Mental. Some people would not say that. They would say, no. You're only supposed to have one significator. And I don't believe that. Because my reasoning here is every person has different opinions in the realms of energy and passion, work, emotions, and the mind. So where one sees themselves in those realms is going to vary. There's definitely two cards, for instance, that I connect with more over to others. But I'm still aware of where I fall in each suit, and based on those aspects, can then identify what it means for me when those cards and other things pop up, okay? But anyways, I feel like we talked about significators and people representation a great deal. So let's talk about another way the court cards usually appear, and that's in embodying the energy, right, of the card that pops up. See, a lot of times when certain court cards, we'll just like show these as examples, okay? A lot of times when certain court cards pop up, it's not saying that you are that card. It's asking you to take up personalities of the card in question in order to navigate your current situation. I get this style of interpretation mostly when it comes to my week ahead readings, 1-card readings, even 3-card readings, or even when it pops up kind of like as a card of the month style. And how to explain this? It's a short-term embodiment to help you out in the long term. So I'll show what this looks like soon. Like I do actually have an example section, so I'm just showing these for now, but stay tuned, okay? And finally, the last bit I want to talk about, and a way I usually see the court cards pop up, is simply as a description of current events, okay? Most commonly, this is when a court card appears as like the present card, or it can describe the past as well as a method attempted or how you attempted to act, I guess. But the other cards in the reading would then have to show if those attempts were successful or were they not, right? If it was like in a present position. They don't appear to say you are that card again. It's just a temporary method, or like a verb when it comes to writing. It's something that you did, right? It's something you did temporarily. It's not saying that you are the Knight of Pentacles, especially if you are somebody who doesn't identify with this card at all, right? It's just what you did at that time. Now that we kind of talked a little bit, I know it was kind of rushed, but now that we talked about the 3 main methods, right? Let me show you concrete examples of the way of reading them in action. So just as a reminder, we have situation describing, we have embodying of energy, and we have actually like talking about people in more significator like ways, okay? Let's move on to actually seeing these cards in action. Okay, let's first off look at how the court cards appear for me personally, right? This is how I learned how to deal with court cards. Specifically for me, I do a week ahead spread, okay? This is part of my particular practice, is the week ahead. Each position in this spread is a day of the week, okay? Card number 1 is Monday, and card number all the way down to 7, right, is Sunday. I followed this pattern because I'm an adult working in American society. These are our days of the week of which we work. Sunday feels like the end to me. It's not the beginning of the week. So, yeah. Anyways, in this example, a couple of cards presented, as you can see, or maybe you can see, I realize the bottoms of this one might be cut off. A couple of these are court cards, okay? And this is very common for me, funny enough. I do get a lot of court cards for my week ahead spreads, okay? Like this, you can see that both Wednesday and Friday have court cards, which of course are the King of Cups, Page of Swords. In this deck, it's known as the Princess, respectively, right? Okay, usually when the cards appear like this, it's your week ahead. You're trying to get a glimmer of what to expect. These are usually asking you to channel, right? This is to channel the energy of that court card in question, as that'll be the key kind of to having a successful day or managing oneself throughout the week, okay? These two in particular actually pop up for me a lot because I work at a school and I deal with students who can be somewhat even volatile, right? And require a stern but solid figure who knows what they're doing and will help them, right, delegate their to-do tasks, right, the delegator. Or I need to be someone who can be playful, quick-witted, but also honest if they need to correct their conduct if another day pops up, right? If it's not like a work-focused day, right? So these two happen to get them a lot, but this is one way, right, in which court cards can pop up a lot, okay? Okay, for another example of this, this is the Queen of Wands, okay? This was actually my card of the month for March of 2023. I don't know who remembers that. I did actually mention it on my channel, but yeah. Anyways, this was my card of the month. This was a month in which I personally needed to be confident, right? I needed to gain confidence in myself. I had to be strategic with my time and energy too in order to get through the month. So the strategist, right? Remembering keywords and personalities of this card. Now, seeing this card, though, for me, also gave me an assurance about going forward with my passions and proving myself, which I did do to varying levels of success during that month, right? So it kind of gave me something to focus on and aspire to also, so I wouldn't get plagued by my usual insecurities. So knowing the personalities of these cards helps you in understanding then what to do and how to act when you see them pop up, okay? Now, I do understand that understanding that a court card could be something to channel, in this case, is one thing. But what about for actual questions and situations you're trying to decode? And how can one's card meaning change depending on where it is in the spread? Because we always talk about that, right? Cards can change meaning depending on where they are in a spread. Any card, but court cards especially can change. For the next example that I'm going to show, I'm going to use 3 cards, right? A 3-card spread, simple, past, present, future. It's going to be the same 3 cards that you're going to see. They're just going to be switched in their positioning and the same question is going to be asked, okay? So, hang on and you're going to see. Okay, for this spread, we're going to use the same 3 cards in different orders, okay? There's going to be the 5 of Wands, the 8 of Cups, and the the King of Swords, sorry, not the Knight. Okay, past, present, future. Our question for the 3 readings, it's going to be the same question. One in which, right, the king is in the past, one in the present, one in the future, because that's how this is going to be most effective. Our question is, what should I do about my current work situation? This is a hypothetical, right? This is like if things were going on at your work, okay? We'll pretend we were shuffling our deck, shuffle, 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 shuffle. And we first get these 3, okay? These 3, just like this, past, present, future. When I first see these 3 cards, I need to think about what I know about the King of Swords. Now remember, the King of Swords keyword is the diplomat, right? This is someone who likes to be just and fair, kind of like a samurai, and usually ends up being the mediator of many situations. Because this is in the past position, this is talking about us, right? This is talking about our role, our usual role when it comes to work. Because the question was, what do I do about my work, right? Since that was the question asked. Okay, so we, the querent, have often had to be the King of Swords at work, helping to diffuse tough situations or maybe people who don't quite get along, right? In the present, however, if we were looking at this reading, like treating it as a real reading, okay? In the present, the Five of Wands has appeared, which means that despite the Quirrell's best efforts, conflict has broken out, which imaginably could be frustrating for the Quirrell, right? That's why their future card tells them that they need to basically abandon the urge to mediate, and you need to drop this, okay? It's what's hinted at with this Eight of Cups, right? Sometimes you do have to drop things. It's a part of life. You have to move on. And sometimes you have to do this so that no further conflict or heartache comes to you, even if it means in the extreme scenario, right? In the very extreme scenario, it could mean even leaving your job if this whole situation, whatever drama you've been wrapped up in, cannot be rectified at all, okay? Just straight up. It is what it is. But this is just one way to read this. This is, of course, only assuming that the king is in the past. How does this switch if the king is in the present and the other cards are also switched around, right? Let's look at the reading if it had resulted like this, okay? Like this, the same question definitely morphs into a much different meaning. With the Eight of Cups being in the past now, it suggests that you have, in fact, already thought about abandoning or switching up your work or your job, or basically just dropping the situation, whatever the work conflict is, entirely. You've already thought about doing that, okay? It's caused you maybe even a lot of grief and pain, because this card kind of has that tied to it. But despite that, in this moment, in your present, you are trying to remedy the situation by being that more mediator-like figure. You're trying your best, okay? But the thing is, guess what? Even though you are trying your best right now, conflict is coming your way, whether you like it or not, right? You have to, in this reading, like this one's kind of, this would be complicated, especially seeing the Five of Wands as your future, but you have to make a choice. This is what this is basically saying. Conflict is coming to your work, despite your best efforts to cover it up and knowing that things are kind of already going south. This conflict that's happening or starting to happen in your work, maybe new management, people who don't like each other, HR issues, whatever it is, it's happening. It's coming your way. Are you going to stay or are you going to go? Because this is what's going to be anyways, right? So very different, right? This is just a suggestion that this is your temporary situation. This is something you're trying to do, but it's not 100% working. This is a method attempted in this case instead of embodying a different energy. But finally, let's try out these cards one more time, okay? With the king now in the future, and the other two, once again, are going to be switched around, okay? So we'll have the 5 here, 8 here. The king is here. Okay. When the answer comes like this, the meaning of the question, right, what to do about your work, once again changes. First off, the reason for the reading becomes clear. Your work's gotten a lot of external conflicts and drama that you've been caught up in, right? This is what this is hinting at. This is what's been going on at your work. So, currently, you now feel like you maybe need to abandon or let go of the situation. Maybe you need to keep yourself away. Maybe you feel like seeing this card could also be an indicator, of you finally going, well, right now, I'm kind of like, I don't give a fuck. It's like, I am so done with this that I'm going to be this. This is how I am right now. I'm about ready to throw in the towel, right? Because maybe it'll save yourself. Maybe that's what you think in this present moment. But the interesting thing here is, guess what? The king is in the future, right? This card is telling you No. Okay? No. This is your time to channel the king's energy. You need to suck it up with whatever's happening at your work. You need to suck it up and you need to help others break out of the conflict before it makes them want to quit or move on, right? This is a scenario in which your voice actually matters and others are looking to you to embody this energy, to be fair, and get others on board with whatever is going on, right? This is clearly, when usually in the future position, this is clearly a sign that you need to do this. You need to embody this to push through the situation. So again, this can change a lot, right? So I hope that helped a little bit seeing some of this in this traditional 3 card, but yeah. Okay. None of those 3 examples I realized even covered when you would see a core card reversed, okay? But I'm not diving into that today because I know a lot of people have mixed thoughts on reversals. For that case, though, if you do see them pop up and you do read them, obviously you take in more of the negative aspects of each of the core cards, the personalities, you take those into account. But, if you don't read reversals, just honestly use your own discretion in how you would do them in a reading. How do you account for those more negative or honest traits, all that. But anyways, I got some cards here because for our final example, we're going to examine what happens when we're doing a reading that involves other people, right? When court cards pop up because they are blatantly talking about somebody else. This doesn't just have to be talking, by the way, about a romance relationship. It's any kind of reason that you be asking for a reading about someone else in your life. For this example, I'm going to do a hypothetical situation in which I'm nervous about seeing a friend again that I've made plans with. And I kind of want to know where we stand because it's been a few years actually since I've hung out with them. Because I am attempting to understand where they are emotionally or mentally, I'm going to be using my insight spread for this example. So give me 1 second and then you're going to see it all laid out. Okay, hello. You might not see the top ones, but I'll show those in a second, okay? But this is my insight spread. And I'm going to explain what all these positions mean in a second, so don't worry. But these are our results, okay? These are the cards that we get from this hypothetical situation of what to do. What insight can I gain about my friend at this time, okay? So let's start by examining what would be card number 1 in this situation, which is you, by the way. This is you in this situation and your reason for wanting the reading. This is, by the way, the Eldritch Overload, so sorry if it's like shining and doing crazy stuff. Anyways, currently it is saying in this situation of insight, you personally are the Queen of Cups. In this deck, it's known as the Queen of Potions. Just, it is what it is. Anyways, getting the Queen of Cups means that lately you've been someone kind of dreamy, kind of spacey, going with the flow of life, right? The dreamer. That's the keyword I've assigned to this queen. Maybe you've been spending your time simply enjoying the world around you. You've been developing your intuition because this card talks a lot about that. And because you've been aware a little bit more of yourself, your intuition might be getting to something, which is why, again, you wanted to do this reading. In card number 2, this is the 9 of Cups, okay? 9 of Cups. Card number 2, however, reveals that you think, in relation to this person that you're doing a reading about, your friend, you've usually thought that everything was fine with them, okay? Everything's been great. You're not sure what's up. You don't think anything could be up. You're just curious. Maybe it's anxiety, whatever it is. You think everything's been fine and dandy. But When you look at card number 3, it reveals what your relationship with this person is actually like. And in this case, it's the 7 of Swords, which means that someone here in this whole situation that's unfolding hasn't been 100% truthful, right? But you might be thinking at this early stage, who is this card? Who is it talking about? Is it both of us? Is it me? Is it them? Like, who has not been truthful here? Okay. This is what your situation's actually like. This is what you think it is. But let's get into these because these are really important to understanding the insight spread, okay? Let's look at card number 4. Card number 4 is the 5 of coins, okay? This is the friend in the situation. And by the looks of it, right, that friend might be feeling put out, okay? As if they've been left out in the cold to fend for themselves and kind of been going through some tough times. And so because of this, right, they're going through it. This is how they feel right now with life. Life's tough. Because they feel this, your friend, they feel this way towards you. This is the Knight of Swords, okay? Card number 5 reveals that they might be feeling cold, they might be feeling indifferent, and maybe even a touch mad with you. And the reason why I say a touch mad is, of course, the Knight of Swords is both air and fire, right? I'm not just pulling this out of my ass. But anyways, they might be even feeling a touch mad at you. And there's also, by the way, seeing this card would make me think there's a high probability that they might be giving you a piece of their mind when the two of you meet, you know, swinging that sword around and not caring about how they hurt you because they feel like you've abandoned them, basically, right? So then, if you know this, who's represented by the 7 of Swords? The answer is you. While you were gallivanting off, being this dreamer, right? You took with you everything in your friendship. You took everything. You took the swords. That's why card number 6 shows that your friend has decided to purposely hermit themselves away from you in order to protect himself from future harm. Okay, this is the action that your friend has decided to take based on all this, okay? They are purposely hermiting from you. Maybe that's why you haven't actually seen them in a few years, okay? Now, card number 7, the last card in the reading, is a potential outcome you could take when you know all this other business in the spread, okay? And in this case, it is the 2 of coins. So that's that you need to be better at balancing your priorities and, right, you have to make more time for this friend. If you really care about them, this is going to be necessary for getting back to a better friendship. So that's what this kind of reading would tell you, right? Is that you need to be more mindful of how your friend currently feels towards you based on how you've been. And yeah, so that's the insight spread. And anyways, I feel like I've gone through a lot. I have. I hope that seeing these different scenarios, right, was helpful, and I hope that it made you more confident when it comes to reading the core cards, right? If it didn't, if you still need more help, please let me know in the comments below so I can do future videos, but especially like clarify where you want a little bit more help, because I tried to cover all the aspects that I've noticed, but maybe you don't think those are 100% accurate, and that could also be fair. But if you did, I again hope that this was helpful. And yeah, I will see you all, I guess, next video. So thank you all for watching, and bye.